Aloha! Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Dragon, we are here to celebrate an event that took place 20 years ago today. Dragon, I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was the summer of Six Flags and the Scooby Doo movie. Dragon, I was a wee little Tiki who had never gone to Disneyland before. I had known of Disneyland through the Disneyland Fun VHS, but I was about to embark on my first trip. I had just graduated fifth grade, which meant the next after summer I was going to be in middle school. So my grandparents wanted to treat me to a big Disneyland trip, and Dragon, coincidentally, the movie that came out right before we embarked on said trip was Lilo and Stitch. Now, Lilo and Stitch, even at an early age, like it definitely didn't come to me until adulthood. Some of the big thematic parallels that we'll talk about, but even from an early age, I loved the movie. I'd already kind of been into Hawaii before because my grandparents had taken me to Hawaii once when I was a little kid. So I did already definitely vibe with the Hawaiian setting for sure. And of course the sisters, the fact that it was a very emotional movie. Like I definitely remember being into the pathos of it all, even at a young age. And Dragon, lo and behold, my favorite attraction at Disneyland when I got to that trip was the Enchanted Tiki Room, another attraction, another Disney thing that takes place in Hawaii. I return, I jump onto every internet message board I can get my hands on that is themed around Disneyland. I become obsessed with Disneyland. In all the boards that I'm registered for, I make the name number one Tiki Room fan. And people just kind of shorthand refer to me as Tiki from that point. And Dragon, the rest is history. And Lilo and Stitch is literally why we're here and why we're here to talk about it. That's my history with it. But my God, we're here to break down the whole thing. How you doing, Dragon? This is a momentous occasion.
Indeed, it is. Yeah, I mean, of course, Lilo and Stitch, very special film in the vast Disney catalog. And then I heard it was like the anniversary's coming up. It's like, where does the time go? Truly, like, where does it all go?
The summer of Six Flags, Dragon.
Yes, Tiki, the summer of Six
It's like our
Flags.
summer of
Anyway,
69.
oh well, okay. Point being, yeah. So I mean, Lilo and Stitch, truly one of the great lightning in a bottle Disney films. Like again, I was on the ground floor of the marketing campaign, like many were, just with him crashing through the Disney films. I mean, the nostalgia I have for Lilo and Stitch is it's going to sound weird. It's going to sound almost kind of like kind of a premonitory, but it's sort of this. I remember seeing the trailer for Lilo and Stitch, and if I recall, and I could be wrong, but I want to say in like the first trailer they put out, the one with actual footage, not just the whole not like oh, he's coming and look, he's crashing there, he's crashing the Little Mermaid, he's crashing Aladdin. But when I when I saw Jumba, man, I could just sense that I think it's the darndest thing. It's like I could pick up exactly how that kid. He has like here's the thing in that trailer, the bit that I remember was he had this line, but it's like this one line that's the most unjumba sounding line, where he has his mouth full after he's ripping up the newspaper and he's eating parts of it and goes like, "What, me?" And I just here's the thing. At first glance, you think, "Oh, this character might have a silly voice," but I could just kind of sense, no, that guy's gonna have like a really awesome kind of Russian accent,
Oh
and he
my
did.
God.
I swear to you, I could.
That's
That's like
incredible.
I could only remember like that. Oh, what me? I'm saying if you look at his design, I could see him going that way, but I don't think they are. I could just see kind of character coming off this guy. And I don't know. So I'm fascinated with Jumbo in this movie. It's one of my favorite parts of this movie. We'll get to more of that love fest later. Anyway, so this Stitch does hold a special place in my heart. My mother, well, my family in general, but my mother particularly, she really loved this movie and loved the Stitch of it all because, Stitch, very much becomes an Elvis fan in this film. So she and my family come from like a long line of Elvis fans. So they
Oh, nice, nice.
so that's the thing. The Elvis component of this film was the reason it was definitely kind of a staple of the household, which I think kind of drifted back just kind of to the full Toy Story camp over the years for my folks. But like kind of between Toy Story, Peanuts, and Wizard of Oz for my mother. But
Totally,
the
totally.
point being, Elvis still, my father adores Elvis, so by proxy, he's a fan of the film because of that. But regardless, fact is, I kind of hit upon when we were doing our big old Disney list and where all those movies ranked. When we got to Lilo and Stitch, it kind of occurred to me looking back on the film 20 years later that it really is Disney's equivalent to the Iron Giant. It's like a blue meth quality film with a blue character, appropriately enough. Blue meth, of course, kind of our barometer for like the highest rate of success you could have with something, which is like the 99.999% purity of like this is like the best version that this will be in terms of, like this is like kind of the best of the 2000s era Disney films, and it's just like look at how like everything's clicking. There's not a hole on the hull of the ship. It's gliding across the water. It's fantastic because everything came together in that spirit. The reason it's kind of like this is Iron Giant only what if like Iron Giant and Mask of the Phantasm got the marketing they should have gotten? Like what if they had the
Yeah,
marketing
yeah, yeah,
support of
for
their
sure.
respective studios? So basically nothing bad came out of Lilo and Stitch at all. It was like, yeah, it was all good, man. Look at that. Upon its release, it's just like the mark.
One could
Everyone knew.
argue that the worst thing to come out of Lilo and Stitch was probably Stitch's Great Escape, and I never went on it, but from what I heard, it's kitschy fun, and I like kitschy fun.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, what I mean is like when there's the marketing is everything just kind of clicked and it performed exactly the way you want it to, and like everyone knew this thing was coming. It could not have like been like unavoidable in all the right ways. So again, it's an excellent film about broken people finding each other. It's how you create an unconventional family. It's it's not. I like that it's sort of like this. It's not the most original way of putting it, but I think it's just the most accurate way of putting it. It is the modern Dumbo that holds up a lot better. That's really what Lilo and Stitch is, because
I hear
obviously,
you. I hear you on that.
because it is simple, it's really economically paced. It kind of hits all of its beats. There's kind of a classic feeling about it, and
There's a
it's not
really emotional core to it.
exactly for sure. And again, as I said, best of the 2000s era that Disney just struck the balance on everything, just so well. And here's the thing. It's like they're striking the balance of like the Disney kind of like the classic Disney film model, all of that Dumbo thing, but it's also kind of capturing that 2000s like recurring theme of like let's do like a sci-fi twist on it. It's like hey, it's 20,000 Leagues, but it's like a Mike Mignola kind of like you know, kind of sci-fi Avatar of its day sort of thing, and vice
Uh-huh.
versa with all Treasure Planet and everything. So kind of like struck the balance between those two things and just remarkably well. It's very strong, very simple because it had a heart to the story. It had two story guys who knew what they were doing and they were at the helm of this thing. I think that's why it turned out as well as it did. Just two story guys like, hey, let's just come up with an idea and see where it goes. And dear God, look at where it got them.
All right, Dragon, I want to shout out. We have some people in the comments here. We have Fui, and then we have Lucas Green and also Z and K. Welcome everyone. Welcome one and all. Very excited to have everyone. Let's see. Lucas Green, you say, hi guys. Here's my question. If you had to pick between which side of the story you prefer between the family custody stuff and the alien chase stuff, which would you prefer? Dragon, I don't know. I hope you're on my side of like I like the alien stuff, but I love the custody stuff.
I mean, don't. I mean, here's the thing: if we're referring to it as the custody stuff, then I mean, it's kind of hard to say no because obviously the Cobra bubbles of it all. I kind of have to say Lilo, but I really want to say the alien stuff because I love Jumba and Pleakley and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, in terms of which style is stronger, then clearly it's the Nani and Lilo thing. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Dragon, yeah, you mentioned the Elvis fan stuff. I mean, basically, folks, we are going to run down the film, like as far as like we're going to break down characters and themes and all that. Dragon, when would be an appropriate time for me to break down my autism connection to this?
Well, that's the thing, Tiki. I don't know if. Well, I mean, I guess. I mean, like, since you brought it up now, I mean, do you want to talk about before background or after background? Like, what do you think?
You know what? I'll do it at the end. How about that? I'll build to it.
All right.
Okay, so Dragon, let's dive into background.
All right, folks. Background this film, it's quite the trip. So pack the Hawaiian shirts. You're gonna have a good time here. So after Mulan, yeah, Chris Sanders, who was working on Mulan, is one of the story guys who really impressed, and he impressed the lovable Thomas Schumacher. Love Tom Schumacher. I love that guy. He has the reason. He always had the right mindset there. Very much, if I recall, he brought kind of didn't he have a theatrical background?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe so. Anyway, so Tom Schumacher, he was always kind of like hanging around, like he was the guy in the room, like telling Jeffrey Katzenberg, like it's not their movie. That's why the Black Friday cut's so bad. Good old Tom Schumacher, like calling Katzenberg out, like what were you thinking? So anyway, so point being, he liked what Chris Sanders did with Mulan. He called him to a dinner. Basically, he wanted to have a meeting at dinner at a place called the Swan. Now, it's this karaoke bar in Orlando, Florida, and the idea was Tom Schumacher joked like, "Okay, Chris, listen,
Wait, hold
because
up. Is it the Swan Resort Hotel?
I mean, I guess, I mean,
Because there is a Swan Hotel in Disney World. It's kind of attached to the
well,
boardwalk.
yeah, you're right, Tiggy. Here's why. It's absolutely that. And I'll tell you, you even reminded
Um,
me of it. Yes.
did they go to Jelly Rolls? Is that the karaoke bar?
Well, I mean, I don't. They said it's a karaoke bar inside the Swan. So yeah.
Okay.
So point being, inside that place, they went there mainly because not because it was karaoke bar. They went there because it was the only place they get sushi in Disney World at that time, I guess. Because that's what they've said. At least I guess that's as far as
Certainly not now, but yeah, we'll
not
move
now.
on
I'm
from
just saying then, like in
that.
circa like 1998, most likely.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
The point being that's why. But here's the gag. The gag's like they sat down there and Tom Schumacher joked, "Okay, listen, Chris, you're gonna have to pitch the idea you so desperately want to, but you're a little nervous to right now, or you're gonna have to start singing."
Mm.
So that kind of motivated him to kind of give his pitch. So Chris Sanders, he had basically had this idea for a children's storybook that kind of went belly up, and it involved this character called Stitch, who was a lot different looking than he is now. He's basically kind of this half armadillo lizard looking thing, which again is probably why Stitch rolls up into a ball the way he does in the movie. So anyways, basically, Chris Sanders makes this pitch to basically adapt that kid's book into a feature, and kind of sold Schumacher essentially as kind of alien and kind of in the wild. Basically, Bambi with an alien, essentially, is kind of what he pitched originally. So, he brings in Dean DeBlois, which, by the way, we've been saying it wrong all these years, by the way. I double checked. So apparently, it's Dean
Oh
DeBlois.
no.
Yeah. So point being, Dean DeBlois, who went on to do How to Train Your Dragon and so many other things, he got to start with Don Bluth back in the day. So Dean DeBlois, he and Chris Sanders, they were buddies and kind of story men on Mulan. They worked together, kind of off the books. They had these secret kind of like beer and pizza nights where they was kind of talk ideas over the movie.
Oh, nice,
Tom
nice.
Schumacher found out and said, "Look, just make it official. Bring him on the movie as your co-director," and they did.
Oh, that's nice.
So I don't need to sneak around. You don't need to do this off the books. Let's make it official. So the original treatment of Lilo and Stitch is a skosh different. Originally, Stitch. I mean, the majority of it ultimately was the same after the initial. Okay, let's introduce the human element, so we're not just like Stitch in the forest, like doing the ugly duckling thing. Not that they had the ugly duckling thing at this point, but let's just say like him just in the woods. So they made Stitch the leader of a gang, and he was basically hiding out in Kansas. There was no Hawaii at this point, no Lilo, no girl, just Stitch. He was in Kansas. And Jumba, like originally, was like a bounty hunter. Then he was like the fourth member of Stitch's gang who got left behind during a bank heist. And basically, they were going to use him to find his old gang leader. And that's kind of what the idea was there for Jumba being on the planet looking for him. So Roy Disney was very much kind of the hero of this movie here. Ultimately, they went with this for the longest time, in which once they so sorry, let me backtrack for a second. So Chris Sanders, he was looking at a poster in a room somewhere, and he basically saw Hawaii. He kind of got the idea, like, that'd be a nice place to set the movie. Like, can you remember the last time you saw a Disney movie set in Hawaii? And he was kind of got talking with Dean. They kind of figure like, let's see if we can do Hawaii, and they did that. and went on this research trip, and saw a lot of
That
locations.
was a stroke of genius right there. I don't think the movie works if it's set anywhere else.
Exactly, because here's the thing: they didn't want like a big military presence like you would have if you were in like Nevada, or if you were in Kansas, or if you were
Totally,
like
totally.
but if you're in Hawaii, it's a very disconnected place. And also, again, if you give your character a weakness to water, he would be trapped, which made a lot of
Uh-huh.
sense. So yeah, so all that basically Hawaii was the big missing piece for the story. Tiki, everything took shape. Like that's when they got Lilo the character. That's when they got like, okay, let's we have like they're bringing like they're absorbing the history and the culture and the meaning of Ohana, and then the hula, and again our locations, and then that's where the watercolor comes into play. So it all just kind of clicks. And again, like Michael Eisner, he was wanting to do films kind of in the at this time he was trying to do like a simpler film, a la a Dumbo, and the watercolor I'm sure struck all the right points. So Roy Disney had the biggest helpful story note of the whole thing, because originally for the longest time Stitch had his gang in the movie, but then Roy Disney said, I don't like the idea that Stitch isn't like kind of like a newborn sort of thing. Like he's not a kid. I hate the idea that he's like a 36 to 40-year old like
Right,
I don't
right,
like the
right.
idea of like this alien being a grown man and having this story I have to piece
Essentially, the
together.
movie you're pitching is kind of the bad guys.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, essentially that's so Roy Disney's like, I don't like because think about it, it's like the whole movie, it's like the gang in the background would be in the Jumbo and Pleakley role, like, oh, let's look for him, and then it's like,
Uh-huh.
hey, we found you, and then Nani kind of says her piece, but it would have been like, oh, what is going on here? So they kind of like, so let's simplify it. So the Alan Silvestri was the first choice for the music, which was a very smart choice. I mean, the man scored some of the best superhero epics ever. Did Back to the Future, not just the superhero classics, but the some of the greatest testaments to film there are with Back to the Future. So he's providing the score, giving the emotional element that they were very much looking for, and they had there have been some changes in the subsequent years, like around September 11th, which we'll get to, and then just not that we're going to mention this one, but we had the infamous pizza box change on Disney Plus,
Yes, yes.
which is dumb, just really dumb. Let's see. Let's see. One last thing to note, really, the Florida studio, I believe, was the one used for this, appropriately enough. I'm pretty sure.
Indeed, one of the few full productions in the Florida studio, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously the success of this film spun off into, let's see, you got a ride, you got three feature sequels, and two TV shows technically.
Right. You've also got the Stitch taking over the Tiki Room in Tokyo, I believe.
Really, he did that?
Yeah, he did that.
You know what's funny is with that Tiki Room thing is the fact that they have the opening Leo and Stitch will do like a Tiki version of Stitch in that opening. It's kind of funny.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so yes, the rest is the rest is history. Just everything came together, and a few changes along the way, reconfigured, made the story that it is today, and it's still Lynn Stitch still very marketable, even before the anniversary. Like I can't tell you how many times I've seen a lot of Stitch
Oh,
on
Stitch
Stitch.
is incredibly marketable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, let's just break down the movie Dragon. I will say that one little nitpick I have, and this is kind of like one of the things why it's not number one on my rankings. It is number three. It's number three on both of our rankings, weirdly enough. I do think the opening 10 minutes takes a while to get going because it's basically just like setting up the Galactic Federation, which is the weaker part of the movie. I don't know. It's like once we hit Hawaii and once we have the Walt Disney Animation Studios presents Lilo swimming through the water with a sandwich, it's like, okay, like strap in because we're in for a hell of a ride. I don't know. I don't the Galactic Federation stuff, I think it's fine. And I do love Jumba and Pleakley as a pair, as a comedy pair. And honestly, like rewatching it today for this, I kind of gained I kind of like regained my appreciation for them. I will say, Dragon, the whole the Gontu side of things, like Gontu's literally in the opening, and then at the start of the third act, the commander is like, "Hey, Gontu, yeah, do something." So I don't know, that whole side of the movie is a little bit half baked. Like I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's 10 minutes before we get to the other title character.
Well, I mean, Tika, I do like the build-up for you really get to know your two leads in those 10 minutes, and it leads to a really interesting juxtaposition from we're going to space and the sci-fi to like we're in Hawaii now. These are two very just you're like building to like a really interesting collision of these two ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the introduction of Stitch, let's just talk about Stitch as a character with that opening, though. We kind of say a lot about him, so I think you might appreciate this. I don't know. It's that. So, we have Jumba's trial in front of the Galactic Federation, which I like that. I like design-wise Chris Sanders. He has a very appealing character style, that's very much what he brought to the thing. I remember he had like these brochures that he showed to everyone, which really helped him when he was establishing his ideas and his pitch for getting the idea in the door. It's kind of like it's Star Trek meets marine life. That's kind of what the Galactic Federation looks like. Because Gantu looking very much like a whale on giant stilts. Anyway, sorry. So I love the mad science origin of Stitch. It's like a little bit of Frankenstein never hurts. I don't think. With the whole 626. Obviously, 626 just is like an Easter egg, by the way, that ultimately led to the whole. Well, what if there were like 625 things that came before him, which led to the show? But yeah, I love that we're paralleling the perception of Lilo with Stitch at his worst at the top of the film, where Lilo is kind of like perceived by others as Stitch is perceived by the Galactic Federation, which, and again, if you want to look to kind of parallel things, it's like it's out of his control and it's on a genetic level, which, might feed in some other themes.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, can we hit on it?
Yeah, I figured we might as well, right?
Yeah. I think this is a good place to start with that, with the characters. Okay,
yeah.
First of all, guys, I really appreciate the comments, but we're... First of all, I don't really want to rehash the 9/11 stuff. Like, we'll get into that, but I don't really want to rehash all the comments there. It's fine. Let's see. Z&K says, I can see how it's essential, but it doesn't have the same importance as, say, how the first act of Pinocchio is all spent in Geppetto's workshop. Lucas Green says there isn't really a villain in this film. Every antagonist is... Every antagonist, and to be fair, there's a lot of them, have justified motives.
Yes, to speak to that, Lucas, it's very interesting you bring that up because that was the mantra on the film, is that there are no villains. That everybody, look at Gantu. Gantu's just doing his job, and he feels embarrassed by Stitch that, like the guy got away on his watch, and Cobra bubbles while being the threat. And the stakes of the film, he is absolutely right in this film. You can't really refute
Cobra Bubbles has a heart of gold, which we'll obviously get into.
Oh, we will. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there is no real villain. I mean, the closest thing we have to a villain is Myrtle, and even then she's just a girl. Like, kind of stuck-up girl, but it's the girl.
All right. Afui says, to be fair, aside from Stitch, Ruben is my favorite, and he has the personality of a college kid. Ruben being the
Rob Paulson.
The Rob Paulson character from Lilo and Stitch, the series, who is a very good character.
Who always has a sandwich in hand. And I love that that's his ability.
Basically, Vince Gilligan, Captain Gantu, just has like a Vince Gilligan sidekick.
See, in a perfect world, Vince Gilligan would have a pet, and it would be 625. It would be Ruben. Make him all the sandwiches he could ever use while he's on the set anywhere.
All right, enough with that silliness.
Anyway,
so yeah, Dragon. The parallel between Lilo and Stitch. So, folks, I don't want to come out and say that this is like some sort of like, oh, it's clearly a coded metaphor and Chris Sanders absolutely intended it. I'm not saying that at all. But through an adult lens, when I watch this movie, it's hard for me to not see the parallels with Lilo and Stitch, as far as Lilo being a high-functioning autistic girl who's been through a lot of trauma and who, focuses a lot of her attention on Elvis as like a special interest, who clearly has behavioral issues and social issues. And then Stitch, who I think Stitch more represents the nonverbal side of autism, which I am also familiar with my brother, who's nonverbal autistic. And with the nonverbal side of autism, it's more of a kind of like a challenge for communication. At times they can seem destructive. Like you said, Dragon, the wiring, it's, I don't think it's a one-on-one metaphor per se, because I would absolutely I absolutely don't want to say, if someone's watching this movie and they see Stitch like being like a whole like, oh, he's built for destruction and he's going to destroy cities and shit. It's like, obviously I don't think that about autistic people.
But there's a perception of that, though. I mean, especially to
a little bit. There's
yeah.
There's a perception of them being volatile at the very least, I think.
So that's the thing. Yeah. Though. Tiki, just to speak to your point, though, it's like, yeah, it's the fact that it's not specifically there, but there are there are dots you could connect if you want to.
To me, I think it's a lot more evident with Lilo. Like with Lilo, I am a lot more confident in speaking to it because I very much live the Lilo life. At least I did when I was younger, of just getting lost in my obsessions and just being that quirky, weird kid who had no friends and who had no idea how to communicate with people. Like, even if I could talk, it was like, a barrier. And so, Lilo, I think absolutely, just with the special interest in Elvis, the awkward social skills, the weird social tics and outbursts. She, for me, is absolutely like, I don't really even care if Chris Sanders intended it or not. She's, to me, kind of like an icon of the autism community. And then by extension, I think Stitch is just kind of like a mascot. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, so the point being, folks, at the end of the day, it's again, people. It's kind of like people can take something away from a movie, and it's kind of nice that it connects with them on a certain level. And again, the argument could be made for those points, but again, even though not truly kind of intended to be there, but it's kind of nice that kind of a community found something to kind of like.
And with that being said, I think one of the big core elements of this movie, the core theme, of course, is Ohana, and with that in mind, Dragon, I think the most important element of the movie is probably the idea of found family. Our family is small and broken, but still good.
Yeah.
So, Dragon, I think that's a key element of this movie is, you don't have to fit in with everyone, and accepting that you are weird, accepting that you are born differently and bred differently. But, what you really need in life is you need to find the people that are your people. You need to find your family, your Ohana. And, Dragon, that is a message that is literally stuck through to me for life. And it will always be there for life for me. Like, that's why I have Stitch and the ugly duckling tattooed on my shoulder.
Right. So just again, speaking of Stitch and just the other capacities here, it would be that, I love that, he's the opposite of like, he's very much a complete opposite here, in which he's just so cute and so small, yet he's so massively a destructive force in the galaxy. He's like this naughty little gremlin who can lift 3,000.
The naughtiness is definitely more in tone with the nonverbal side of autism, where it's like, because me, Dragon Beef, I think with Stitch, I think to me the biggest 1-for-1 comparison I can make with my brother is actually Donnie Thornberry, and Donnie Thornberry is probably like the top contender to get my the other tattoo I will probably get at some point on my other shoulder. Because I don't know, I just think Donnie Thornberry, just the way he, like, and again, I don't even think it's like a 1-for-1. I don't think the creators even intended it, but just the way his mannerisms and everything, it is so my little brother. I can just see it. So,
right.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
Anyway, yes. So, again, regardless, just the fact that he's like this little kind of gremlin essentially who can lift 3,000 times his own strength. He's got 6 arms, and it's just really. I love his little outfit too. By the way, he's like wearing a little orange outfit. So yeah, I like that we set up kind of our bookend here, where with the very very fair councilwoman who's basically saying she's looking for a sign of change, a sign of good in him, and he's like saying now crease at her and everything, and it's it does circle back as kind of quite nicely how it's just completely diametrically the opposite at the end, and then essentially we have like just kind of this. The cleverness of this of essentially Stitch's great escape, just kind of like in the movie here, where it's so clever how he uses like the DNA lock to basically spit his way out of there, and with the blasters and everything. Just really really a lot of fun. I love that Gantu in his just in his scale is just so the opposite of Stitch. He's in control. He's very regal. He's a regal captain.
Totally.
By the way, just to mention it, because no one ever talks about this, Kevin Michael Richardson in a big screen role, man. He did a really good job with it, and of
He
course
did. He did.
we rewarded him with like a main role on the on the show as Gant.
Uh-huh.
So it came back. It was really nice to see him like kind of get his big day in the sun, because our voice actors never get their proper due on the big screen. So anyway, so again, we already talked about their whole there are no villains philosophy with Gone too. So anyways, I think to get to the Lilo of it all. So our premise,
Yeah.
it's such a perfect idea, man. Just like Stitch's one design flaw, can't swim, put him on the island of Kauai. It's like there's no connection there. It's complete island. He and just the fact that we hit him with a truck, we throw him in the kennel. I'll admit, for reasons like why do we put the dead dog in the kennel, but they I don't know. He's in the kennel. And he has to avoid Jumbo and Pleakley, them attacking them, trying to bring him in by using a little girl as a human shield. By seeing that little poster of like, okay, hug the dog, hugging the little girl. That's my play. But it's like the most awesome, brilliant twist on reinventing the kid and their dog story. Just great.
Yeah, totally. So Dragon, let's breaking down the Lilo character. You see it like right from the jump in the opening, in the Pudge the fish scene, which Dragon, I mean, that right there, it really speaks to me as an autistic person of kind of like how stressed out you can get when you when your routine is thrown off. The whole Dragon, every time I watch this movie, I cannot help
fish.
it. It's fish.
Stinking tuna.
So it's like I love how funny that scene is, but it does get serious. The bite is genuinely, I'm kind of surprised that they went there, because that is something that autistic kids do. Like I have battle scars for my brother, as much as I love my brother to death.
Well, again,
I
think
I applaud them for going that far, but it is kind of a shocking moment.
I really think the bites there are just the kind of like parallel with Stitch, but sure. But
sure, but still.
I mean, that's what I'm saying here, folks. Is that, again, I think the direct thing is that, but you could make the leap of, well, again, especially if we're paralleling them with two, well, no pun intended, two ends of the spectrum on autism. You have two different, again, two sides of it kind of at play being parallel to each other as well. Again, kind of multiple ways you can read it, especially 20 years later. So, but yeah, what time we got to speak to with the Lilo and Nani story just as a whole, something really important. We amazingly legitimized our story here with the stakes of the film, which are just kind of wonderfully. We have these wonderfully flawed characters, all trying and in progress of change. Like you have Nani, who is, she's. The idea with Nani is like she's been forced to grow up, like to be a parent when she is in, like she never foresaw this for herself. It's probably, we don't know how recently their parents passed. We don't know, but it's just the fact that, like she's been forced into the role of parent. She's in over her head, but she is trying, and you're rooting for her. And you have Lilo, who is presumably, lonely and an outcast. And presumably, if I were to infer, I mean, I think the idea is the idea speculated by Chris Sanders that the mother gave her interest in Elvis, and perhaps that was like they shared like a bond and kind of the oddball stuff. And when the mother is passed, Lilo's kind of now alone with those interests, and she doesn't really have like a shoulder to cry on, or kind of a mentor in that. And that has kind of led her to being the social, kind of like less than a social butterfly, perhaps. I don't know. So, but again, it's kind of like, I think Lilo is mainly grappling with the kid logic of, it's like with divorce, like, it's all my fault. It's kind of like, it's the kid logic of, if I don't do certain things, bad things will happen, which is why she's feeding Pudge the fish. So it's kind of the ritual of feeding Pudge the fish, which then leads to the fighting and the biting, and we'll battle with that little brat Myrtle. But Tiki, if you had one symbol of the movie that kind of says everything you need to say about Lilo, especially with the kind of stuff you're laying out, Scrump, man, Scrump.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to me, I've always said that the most powerful moment of the whole movie for me is when she throws Scrump down out of frustration, storms off, and then instantly runs back and gives Scrump a big hug.
Did you notice the little catch with Scrump when she picks her up?
What now?
Yeah, so when she picks Scrump up and she's walking away with her, if you look really carefully, Scrump is smiles because she picked her up.
Okay, that is adorable, and I have never noticed that.
Yeah, it's like, it was mentioned on the commentary once. It was like, it's like, oh, look, it's like, you can see Scrump smiling now that she's picked up. It's kind of adorable.
Okay, we have some good comments here. Lucas Green says one of the most powerful scenes I'd say is where after Stitch destroys part of Lilo's room.
Mm-hmm.
Juba says, "What must it be like to have nothing, not even memories to visit in the middle of the night?"
That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. I gotta be honest. I love Jumba. Jumba's moment in that scene is one of the reasons I love that character.
Okay, Lucas Green says, as awesome as this movie is, can you guys figure out any way why no one in Hawaii could figure out Stitch is not an animal from Earth? Dragon, hit him with the "we don't care" philosophy.
Yeah, so we like to we always like to cite kind of a line from the Pixar commentary on Toy Story, where this kind of have like these four jovial men talking, reflecting on the story of their own film, and like all the logic police and all the logic questions that would come from an audience, like how is Sid getting mail at this time of night, or like how is the claw machine hanging on for this long? They all look to each other, assumedly, and they go, "We don't care." It's like who cares? It's a movie. We don't care. It's like, yeah, you got it.
I feel like it's like the more jovial version of "oh well, plot hole."
I mean, yeah, but it's the classier version of that.
Exactly.
Like, we don't care.
I genuinely don't care.
Exactly. So, I mean, again, it's the now.
It could be a plot hole, but yeah, it's.
Now, to be fair, they did consider that. They really did consider that in the room. Like, well, how should, because originally
I feel like the going from the 6 arms to the 4 arms is enough. I don't know.
I agree as well. I think that's.
I feel like that's visually just like, okay, he's morphing into something a bit more Earth-like.
Yeah, and again, he's like, the fact is the guy he's acting like a dog but doing it very poorly. That's just kind of more funny than it is like, wait a minute, no one's like, hey, it's Lilo thinks he's like the coolest dog ever. That's enough. That's as much logic as you need. Again, it's like what all fools say. It's cartoon logic and it's movie logic, as Ian K said. Yeah, come on.
Okay, ZNK says one of the great details I just noticed is if you look at Nani's bedroom, she has surfing posters. That was her passion before she became a guardian.
Yeah, which is how she met David. Yeah.
And then Afui says we saw in the series that Nani was a surfer and quite popular in high school, but her friends didn't know her parents died. And she seems to be 25, so they had been dead too long. Okay. So, I do get the vibe that they've been dead for, like at least a few years.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell because Lilo in that photo looks pretty much like she looks now. So I mean, I could guess like at least 3 years at most. That's my guess. It's anyway. Let's see. All right. So let's see. We should probably talk about Cobra Bubbles, right?
Yeah, we probably should. You're
right. Yes. Okay. My 2 favorites of this film. I mean,
look where you're going, you stupid head.
That's my car. So Cobra Bubbles and Jumbo are Cobra Bubbles is my favorite aspect of the film, second to Jumbo, quite possibly. So originally Cobra Bubbles was actually.
I like Jumbo a lot. I don't think Jumbo's like a pillar of this movie.
I know. I'm just saying I really like him. Just for girls. So Cobra Bubbles though, just amazing and quite the linchpin, quite the great story linchpin as well.
Cobra Bubbles is literally like the linchpin that holds everything else together in this movie.
And he is the cross section between both stories, technically, with the whole CIA thing. So here's the thing. So Cobra Bubbles, originally he was just kind of this milquetoast social worker guy called Mr. Kalakini. Just a fastidious kind of guy, and like your typical social workers, guy with a clipboard, that guy. So they basically, again, with everything else in this film, they thought, let's subvert that. Let's have a social worker who is perceived, who basically looks the way every guardian perceives a social worker, as like a very intimidating force. Like, let's say Ving Rhames, every social worker to every like parent who's like, kind of tugging at their collar of, oh God, I'm overthinking everything I'm doing as a parent. It's like Ving Rhames. That's the only way you make that intimidating. It's like, oh God, that's what it feels like. So Cobra Bubbles he represents
it's just a stroke of genius, just pure and simple. I mean, it's just as far as character design goes, Dragon, it's like top tier. It might be like in the Mount Rushmore of the best character designs Disney's ever done.
This is the fact that we have a movie Aliens and we have a guy who literally looks like a Man in Black. So just the fact that, again, as
I adore Lilo's interactions with Cobra Bubbles. I can't get over them. They are fucking delicious.
I agree 1,000%.
My friends need to be punished.
And it gives her the card, like, yeah.
Yup.
But here's no, here's the thing. I love your knuckles say Cobra. Let's
uh,
enough about me. Let's talk about you. So the fact is,
oh my
you
god, yeah,
really
yeah. In that moment, you're just like, that's all you need to know to be like, oh man, he's a really good social worker. He
that's the thing.
cares.
So I love that it's Cobra Bubbles. Like he bends down to the kneels to be on her level. He clearly does care about the kid, which is really important, especially in
Uh
social
huh.
work. Like, and the thing is, so Cobra Bubbles, he's not wrong at all, and he's not the bad guy because he is looking out for Lilo's well being. And we see, like, yeah, Nani. It wasn't just played for comedy. Nani left the stove on, man. That's not good.
Yeah, it was not a good Dragon. That scene always makes me fucking cringe. It
Think about
really
it.
does.
Later on,
Like that scene is almost like a real life horror movie scene because it's
not
just like it's basically a Murphy's Law. It's just like everything goes bad in that scene.
imagine. I mean, here's the thing. Even though Cobra Bubbles, we're probably, I think Cobra Bubbles is inclined to believe Lilo, but for all he knows, she could be just kind of being an imagination when the whole when the house. For all he knows, he like no, Nani left the stove on again, and the house caught on fire. You know, it's that's the question.
Uh huh.
So again, with Cobra Bubbles, there was this wonderful deleted idea with Cobra Bubbles that it can kind of be there if you like to think about it, but Cobra Bubbles had this briefcase he had with him in the movie when he showed up a bunch of
Did it
times.
have Marcellus Wallace's soul?
No, but here's the
I'm
thing though.
sorry, I couldn't
It's
resist. I
you know
couldn't
what's
resist.
funny though? I can't help but wonder if just the suitcase in itself was a Pulp Fiction reference. But here's the thing: they had the idea that inside the book, a la Pulp Fiction, most likely, was Nani was going after basically after Stitch throws the book at him, like Cobra Bubbles would have like either left the briefcase behind her, it would have gone like in a panic to kind of like just kind of upset. He would have like opened up the briefcase and tossed out the contents, and the contents were two books. Those books said essentially life after the CIA, what to do with all that time to kill, and the other one was essentially the sorry, the finding the gentler person in you. So
Oh
the
god.
idea is, and this is a sweet idea though.
That's
Cobra
really
Bubbles.
cool. That's really cool. Yeah.
So again, even though you can just kind of sense it though, just with the fact that he made a change, and that just kind of adds like maybe a little bit of an extra element to it, is the idea of Cobra Bubbles, like he's a flawed character like everybody else. He's trying to make a change. He's a big scary guy who's trying to help people, which
Yeah,
is really
totally.
moving.
Totally.
It's just really it's really interesting to me, and the fact he's trying to make a change, and it's probably hard for him to do that.
I mean, really, Dragon, they like he could easily be the protagonist of this movie if we switched perspectives.
I would eagerly watch the Cobra Bubbles movie. I mean, I
Okay, you
absolutely.
know what? Hey, Disney, you know how you're doing a live action Lilo and Stitch? Yeah, there you go. Like it's basically your Men in Black. There, you can have that idea for free, Disney.
Maybe do it with Mike Coulter.
Oh my god! Oh yeah, Mike Coulter, Cobra Bubbles. Give me a
Yeah,
break. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I could totally see that.
I can see Cobra. I can see Mike Coulter's Cobra Bubbles just like charming the kids, like being delightful children. Be awesome.
Oh
Anyway,
man. But I could also see Mike Coulter just being really super intimidating with Nani.
yeah, because imagine Mike Coulter with sunglasses, kids.
All right.
Anyway, so let's see what was like. All right, so I love that we also have some touchstones of Hawaii. Because anyway, just like a few of our side characters, even the ones that don't really do a lot, just like we get more play in the show, mind you. But let's
The
just say like,
sunburnt tourist. I mean, it's like
yeah,
Dragon. That's one of the things about this movie is that all the side characters, it's like not a ton of them get a lot to do, but they all just kind of like, much like the location itself, they all just add such a flavor to the movie whenever they're on screen.
for sure. In the case of that guy, the flavor is what is it, like mint chip or pistachio? But yeah, the also yeah,
I think it's mint chip.
as do I. So you have David, who is he kind of represents the surfing culture and the fire dancing, and he's a very friendly kind of guy, kind of like just kind of the neighborly kind of aspect. And you have like Mr. Peloki, Mr. Peloki, the hula teacher, how delightful is the hula teacher, right?
He is. I really love him because he represents a teacher who is trying so hard, but he's at the end of the rope by no fault of his own.
Exactly, and I love that
He only gets a few moments in the movie, but it's like that alone is like, just super realistic.
he's actually voiced by one of the first of the hula instructors they interviewed for the film,
Oh, that's cool.
which is really nice. So let's talk about Jumbo and Pleakley.
Educate yourself.
Yeah. Educate yourself.
Educate yourself.
All right, so perfect casting on both of them. Just David Ogden Stiers, the now passed, unfortunately, David Ogden Stiers, and Kevin McDonald.
Uh-huh.
So again, Jumba's awesome design. I've always loved Jumba's design. I love it. And here's what's really fascinating. We think about 20 years later with Jumba. So Jumba was kind of in a really interesting position because his character was completely rewritten, like while they were like through production. I don't know how much of it was animated, so they're
Yeah,
probably
no,
stuck.
it is really interesting that he's like basically like the second main character when it comes to like when it comes to when this movie was initially being drafted.
Yeah, but I mean, think about this, Tiki. Is that again? He was originally conceived as like a bounty hunter, like a gang member, and then they kind of
Uh-huh.
retroactively made him like a genius, a mad scientist. So you have this really unconventional looking mad scientist who I love it. He's just like this big bull streak. Like I love like the flat feet and the big arms and the four eyes and everything. It's a really unique design for a mad scientist you never see. And the fact that of course he has this wonderful voice and he's doing like the Russian mad scientist thing, just brings like a lot of like kind of boisterous charm there. But I love that there's like an interesting balance that they struck where he's the creator and he's not until the show really. He's not really the father figure until the show or like kind of the very end of the movie. Where he is, there's kind of like that fine line, where it's just this great performance again, as it was kind of intimated earlier in the comments. I think the scene that just truly sold me on how wonderful this performance was and how great this character was you have the mad scientist who just literally created this thing on a whim just to see how much destruction he could do. And he's given a contemplative thought as he watches his creation and kind of ponders why he did in the first place and what life like. Basically, he's lamenting the consequences of his actions in a really genuine way, given a little perspective, given a little distance. Like like I created him to destroy everything, but now without anything destroyed,
He's
what
kind of
can I
like the
do?
storyline of John Hammond mixed with the personality and boisterousness of Ian Malcolm.
Sure. I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, essentially, yeah. And it's just the fact that he's
Life finds a way.
it's just again he's in parallel to Stitch. He's basically Stitch's thought balloon with four eyes. It's essentially
Oh,
he's essentially what Stitch can't say, Jumba says. So I love how he
right,
compliments
right,
that
exactly.
character.
That is kind of like like on a purely functional role
Yeah.
within the screenplay. That is his role for sure.
But also at the same time, the comedy with Jumba that plays off completely so well is that Jumba, he's upset though. He's a little upset with Stitch, so he's just kind of very eager for his freedom and everything. So he's very eager to shoot him because he's a crazy mad scientist. So he's loving. He's
Yeah,
very eager
Juba
to.
has a lot of really fun reactions for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and of course you have like the after he has his arc with Stitch, and Stitch is kind of like in like a moment is basically ask him for help. Is very persuasive. He's very persuasive. So Pleakley, on the other hand, this Kevin McDonald just the mosquito idea is just so freaking smart and funny. Just like, why are we not? Why don't we gas the planet? Like, what? Crazy head? Like, no. Just the fact that they're preserving the mosquitoes and not the humans in itself is funny. And the fact made even funnier that Cobra Bubbles gave him that idea.
Yes, yes, yes.
Just utterly
It's
perfect.
genius comedy writing. It really
And then
is.
you have
It's
like the
top tier comedy writing.
then you see Pleakley kind of fall in love with the planet via the cross dressing, which is really fun. I love like that wig gag so much. I'm like, this is like, what are you doing? It was nothing. I want to try it. No, just taking the wig. Anyways, it's really it's Kevin McDonald having a lot of fun, and anyways, playing off of Jumba very well. It's why they're very inseparable by the time Lilo and Stitch comes around when they do the show and everything else. It's just, they're inseparable, truly. All right. So, maybe we should talk about the structure a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the film has a pretty it has a pretty typical third act structure, three act structure. What in particular do you want to break down?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, yes, there's a three act structure, but here's the way in which they structured the three act structure is the thing is I think the way they approached the movie and figuring it out was usually in animation what you do is you kind of lay out sequences like, okay, here's like the chase sequence and here's the this sequence and the that sequence. And what they did is they looked at it with the course of a day. So they didn't just broach it like individual pieces that could easily be cut and thrown to the wayside. Like, no, day one. Because think, we have the ticking clock is 3 days. Cobra Bubble gives her 3 days. They have day one, which is when they adopt Stitch. Day
Uh-huh.
two is is when Nani's looking for a job after Stitch kind of made her lose her first job when he was biting down on Pleakley's head in the first day, and then day three essentially is like, hey, the last chance of the general store, and then the house blows up. So it's 3 days laid out very well in terms of what happens, with our 3 act structure.
And all those days are essentially acts within the movie.
Exactly. So all that I think works just really well and really well structured. And what assists them even more with the montages is one of the MVP aspects of the film, the Elvis music. We should talk about the Elvis music.
Yeah, I mean, I think this movie just like honestly, it is like Albuquerque verse levels of great song choices mixed with great montages. It really is. It's fantastic.
So Chris Sanders, the reason, if you're ever wondering why Elvis, outside of the obvious Blue Hawaii of it all, Chris Sanders, he had been an Elvis fan, and he basically was looking for like kind of like a little quirk to give Lilo. And it originally was supposed to be just the one scene. So originally, when he was just crafting like the scene where Cobra Bubbles comes to the house and Nani can't get in, Lilo's just like saying, "Leave me here, leave me alone to die," quoting the song.
Uh-huh.
So that was it. That's all that was there. It was like a little Elvis reference, and then basically they kept kind of loving and using Elvis's tent music, and it's like, and
And
Chris
again, I
Sanders.
think that was really smart. And even if even if that was just like an agency of the soundtrack, I think that clearly is one of the big autism takeaways is her is her deep dive into Elvis. So
Well, that's the thing. Any way you slice it, is like that one scene kind of said all about her, and it just kind of like
uh-huh.
permeated into the film beyond that. So just the fact that Elvis, it's just the fact that like, basically Chris Sanders is a little paranoid, like, oh man, maybe it's too much Elvis music. Like, no, look, it's working. Don't second guess the Elvis music, and then they realize, oh god, we might have a problem. We have a lot of a lot of Elvis, very integral to the film, and we didn't ask the estate for permission yet. So they're like apparently Tiki. I don't know if this is still the case. I guess it still is, and we'll find out this Baz Luhrmann movie. I'm sure no, they obviously got permission with the Baz Luhrmann movie. But let's just say there are. It'd be really bizarre if they
Dragon,
didn't.
that's going to be the main plot line in the Baz Luhrmann movie.
No, seriously. So apparently, when you do Elvis references or Elvis references in movies, when you get the permission, there are 4 rules about Elvis. Apparently, when they made the movie, so the 4 rules, which they broke all these rules. So one, you got to get permission when you're talking about Elvis, just to name drop him. Then when you show his picture, like especially when you're doing live action, like they did, like here's Elvis's photo. And when you intimidate him, do the Elvis impersonator thing, and then when you alter a song, which they had to shorten a song during the montages.
Uh-huh.
So they said they got permission by the estate, and they were very enthusiastic about the film. Let them go visit Graceland, smell the cologne and everything, and they had a good time. We have like some excellent songs chosen, like "Devil in Disguise," "Hound Dog," "Stuck on You," all just very perfect.
Okay, we have some comments
Sure.
here. ZK says, as someone who grew up on Elvis music in an Elvis loving family, I obviously approve this. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lucas Green says some of the songs fit with the scene "Stuck on You" as Stitch is sticking to Lilo to save his bacon from Jumba. When you are ready, give us your friend. Let us know. Jumba responds.
I love how cocky Jumba is, and just like, well, when you're ready to give up, just let us know. They're following him everywhere, just waiting for him to get to slip up and just,
And then Z and K says, "Oh Christ! Every time Stitch chomps down on Pleakley's head, I still feel that and cringe in pain."
Okay, Z and K, I'm going to tell you something here. I don't know if you know about this. The originally that scene was a lot grosser.
Oh no!
So what happened was, and it was not, don't worry, Pleakley's fine, but what happened was, instead of luring him with like a cartoon, like kind of a space colored version, like a turkey leg, it was like a toe, almost like a pig's foot sort of thing, like a toe of an alien creature, and he was like biting down on it later on. It was like really gross. So he's like, oh my god, literally, no one. It was making them all sick when they were like watching the animation dailies or the storyboard. Like, oh god, it's like no, because he rips the nail off. It was disgusting. So they made the right choice there, but instead they compensate with he's like chomps down on Pleakley's head, but it's okay. Yeah.
All right. What else?
Yes, so we should probably again in general, like obviously Stitch on the beach, when the Elvis get up, just it's a hallmark of the film clearly. But speaking of hallmarks of the film, we should talk about the ugly duckling of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I am so happy about the tattoo dragon is specifically because of how the ugly duckling symbolism came out on it. So obviously for me, the ugly duckling, like I think the cornerstone of the movie, besides emotionally, besides Scrump and the hug of it all and going back for her, is the scene with Stitch. Oh God, Dragon, you know what line just fucking kills me every time? Just absolutely just stabs a knife through my heart every fucking time.
What is it?
Um, but you can leave if you want to, but
Oh
I'll
yeah. Mm-hmm.
remember you though. I
Mm-hmm.
remember everyone who leaves.
Haunting, very haunting.
Yeah, I'm just like Jesus movie. that that line just resonates with me more and more the older I get. But yeah, of course, Stitch with the book in the woods, lost. It's just
I'm
like
lost.
it's haunting Dragon. It's a perfect low of lows.
You know what's funny about the ugly duckling thing?
Huh?
So actually, it was a Pixar idea. Technically, it was inspired by a Pixar suggestion.
Was it?
Yeah, Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlow. They kind of chatted with some. I don't know who at Pixar specifically. I don't know if it was Joe Ranft or Andrew Stanton. I'm not sure. I assume it was Dean DeBlow's mentor was Joe Grant, who was also, I believe, the mentor of. I believe he mentored Joe Ranft as well, but I'm not sure about that. All I know is they have fond reverence for Joe Grant at Pixar. So it makes point being, it's probably someone who was a fan of Joe Grant as well. So they were talking, and essentially Pixar had the key suggestion of when Stitch is brought home and he's tearing up the place and everything. He's tearing up the place and everything. That perhaps he should you should establish that Stitch is grasping the concept of Ohana. Like there's like a moment in which he grasps like what exactly Ohana is, because right now it
Uh-huh.
doesn't really seem like it just seems like they're saying words at him. So that led to okay, let's give him a visual symbol of which via the book, which is like that's something that really strikes a chord with him, which is okay, Ohana represented in the Ugly Duckling story. So that's that would strike a chord with him, and then leads to kind of like the big low of lows, like visual of like I'm lost, in the
Yeah, yeah.
beginning. So let's see. Oh, the photo. We should talk about the photo too.
Oh God, just how strongly Lilo reacts to the photo, and anytime it's touched, and how she just meticulously puts it back under the pillow.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to speculate, I'd say it's probably the last time. That's probably the last time they had together before.
I would think it's probably the last photograph they have together, at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the very least, for sure. Yeah.
Uh huh.
So yeah, and obviously when the photo gets destroyed, and then when we patch it up, I love the symbol of how the evolving symbol of the photo. It's like, hey, you don't touch this. To it's been destroyed. To like, oh, we've repaired and we've stapled a picture of Stitch into the photo. How nice! That's what the
Again, to me,
last thing
that
that
is
we
like the
saw.
perfect metaphor for the found family thing that
Yeah,
this movie's going for
we do a
sure.
lot with illustration and photos in this film between the Ugly Duckling pages and the
Uh huh.
Elvis photo and this.
Well, I feel like that fits really well because of the children's book angle that you said this movie was going
Yeah.
for.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. In terms, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, let's see. So we should mention the surfing scene.
Yeah, Hawaii. Well, let's talk about both of the songs because I
Yeah,
think
sure.
both of
Yeah.
them slap. And as I get older, I can't pronounce the name of the first one, but I love it.
Right.
I don't know. I just think it's just got such a great rhythm to it, and
Let's see. One of them's Hawaiian roller coaster ride, but you're probably thinking
yes,
of
and the
the
other one is like literally a Hawaiian name that I'm not even going to embarrass myself trying to pronounce.
gotcha. Right. So, but yeah, here's the thing. It's funny. They were actually going to cut out the surfing scene, but they because the problem is it was going to be two montages in a row. We did the
That would have
Elvis
been
montage.
fucking crazy.
Now here's what saved it though. They did these test screenings. Like the test screens that told them like, no, get rid of the toe thing. It's disgusting. And the other one, which was like the other note was like their favorite thing in the movie was the surfing montage. So they absolutely like no. I mean
Fucking
they were.
Mr. Enter is in the test screening, and he's like, "Keep the 9/11 stuff." I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't
That's
resist.
a bit of a swipe at
I
somebody.
couldn't resist. I saw the opening and I went for it.
A little unprompted.
Mr. Enter's just like, yeah, this is what I want.
Well, now that you brought it up, So yeah, so the 9/11 thing. So our climax of the film. It's originally. To be fair, this was this I the original version with the 9/11 thing. I absolutely get where their head was at, and it actually was a really good idea. But unfortunately, events happen. So essentially, the idea that the movie plays with such realism and such kind of by the bootstraps of like it's a real it's a very we're very grounded, very realistic in a lot of aspects. So Stitch is going to save Lilo as she's been kidnapped by Gantu accidentally, and Stitch is like his recourse, like he's going to do something kind of broad and crazy, which he's going to hijack like a 747 to save the girl, which would have been an inspiring image of like, oh, come out of the clouds. Stitch found a way to find her, and then like we have this crazy
And then
sequence where
obviously it's like, yeah, no, no, we can't do that.
I mean,
No,
the
abort,
hijacking in itself
abort.
is now. To be fair, they didn't make a point to show that everyone's off the plane and everything. But then,
No, I
what?
get
Then,
that. That's totally
yeah,
fine, but still the imagery.
yeah. But here, yeah, the thing
Just the
is,
747 flying low to the buildings.
that's the thing. Now, to be fair, you could make the argument, well, none of the buildings get destroyed, but it's a fact that it's just too close. It's like it's too close to when the event happened. More so, it's like literally too close for comfort. Like they're riding on like the fronts of buildings. That's it's a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's see. How did you feel about the? How did you feel about the surfing, the part of the surfing scene where Stitch almost drowns?
Well, I mean, what I like about the movie is I think the movie has a really good ebb and flow of like kind of like nice relaxing scenes, comedic scenes, and then really dramatic scenes. And I feel like the screenplay just does a very, very good job of mixing all that up. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just love just kind of like how David really hits the point after that scene. The whole, I think they
I,
really
I
had a
love
chance.
how David is the one to make like the most pointed argument against Stitch. I feel like that gives it a more like I feel like that hits home more because you know that David throughout the whole thing has been the most level-headed one. You know what I mean?
Did you get the sense that Dean from Iron Giant would get along greatly and famously with David?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jesus Christ. Now that's a fanfic I want to read.
Yeah, it almost seemed like be buddies.
Dragon, it's very simple. It's just like David has Dean commissioned an art piece for his surfing competition or something like
Yeah,
that.
and
I
they
don't
talk
know.
about kind of their adoptive children figures in their
Right,
lives.
right. Oh god.
Yeah, so I met this
Oh
kid.
my god, I want to see that now.
So let's think about it. Is imagine this like kind of like a few years have passed, they're a little older. We don't see the kids, but we imply that they've gotten older, and it's like them kind of reflecting on life, just kind of like, so thanks for making this for me, man. Like, oh yeah, it looks great. So what do you do? Like, oh yeah, I make art on the side, and I kind of like hang out my new wife's kid.
Oh
Anyway,
god, good times. Good times.
so regardless, let's see. Okay, let's see. So, also, I'm sorry. Back with the chase too. I mean, the fact that we do it with the spaceship and everything, do it through the canes, that also looks really, really fun. Too. It conveys too. It's like an inspiring moment where, like, Stitch is like, he promises to come back for Lilo, and she's, it's a very kind of sweet moment. I love Stitch when he faces down that truck again, and he's like, he puts his little frog friend to the side to safety, and he basically he steals the truck and he blows himself up right into Gantu's cockpit. Now, I love the scaling of Gantu's ship, by the way. It's the
I
fact
do
that
too. I do too.
Gantu needs a giant ship. And Stitch ejecting into that ship, like he's just literally on like the not the, in the cockpit, like on the dashboard of the thing. He's like so tiny on the dashboard, and he tosses him right out the windshield. I love it. Yeah. Oh god. So delightful. And you know what? Tiki, there's an important scene we got to talk about.
Yeah.
Nani. We got to talk about Nani catching up with everything in the movie. When she sees Gontu walking off with Lilo, it's like, okay, she's caught up. That's all she needs to see right there. She doesn't really need the question. It's like giant whale guy taking my sister, and he's like, okay, he can actually talk. And then she's just like, literally just like Tia Carrere's performance here, just like yelling at Jumba and Pleakley, and Jumba is trying to play dumb,
Oh
but
yeah, absolutely. It's like you can really tell the desperation in her voice, for
just
sure.
like just her breaking down, having lost like all the family she has left in that moment, and then Jumbo like sadly like melting his heart with the whole, yes, we know her.
Mhm.
And the whole like, we're here for him, not her. It's like, okay, if they ever remade Lilo and Stitch, Stefan Kapusik is Jumbo.
God, yeah, I
Tell
can see
me you
it. I
wouldn't
can
want
see it.
that though.
No, I can see it. It's good. It's good.
Okay, anyway, let's see. Well, I mean, obviously, we have the just the ending with on the beach where we have like Stitch giving the big Ohana speech.
Yeah, and that speech, I really feel like it's very powerful as far as like, especially if you relate it to the autism thing, because it's and again, folks, I don't want to draw the one for one here. I'm just saying there's a reason why we call this podcast "What Lilo and Stitch Means to Us," because it's like, because for me, it's like finding your family and finding people who understand you and vibe with you and accept you for your eccentricities. That is truly finding your voice, and it is very powerful for Stitch to get up there and kind of make like the big defining emotional monologue of the movie when he's mostly been like not a pantomime character, but definitely not the most wordy
Like
character in the
Chris
world.
Sanders just is very like very selective, like a word here and there, and it's pretty
Right,
much
right.
Stitch. Like it's yeah.
As OAW Entertainment says, I'm also cute and fluffy.
Cute and fluffy as he throws Gantu out the
Yeah,
windshield.
yeah,
By the
yeah.
way, he catches him too. He saves the threat. Like a good dog. He's like holding him, holding him out. That's awesome. I love David. This gag always cracked me up. That David's like, "Hey, David, can you give us a lift to shore?" Sure. I'm gonna need to take a couple trips. Just looking at Gantu.
I
How
want to see that. I want to see that as a deleted scene, just like David, just like the awkward small talk with David and Gantu as they're
uh,
paddling back to shore together.
You know what? It does have me thinking. I don't think he ever shared a scene with David in Lilo and Stitch the show, which is that. Imagine how that would be. Seriously, imagine if they actually got along famously or something.
Oh my god, that'd be great.
Because David gets along with everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
Which, by the way,
totally.
speaking of David, real quick, I want to harken back to the something we glazed over. The destroying the house sequence.
Uh-huh.
So, I love that David kind of shows up basically to get Nani out of the house so he can destroy the house.
Right,
Now
right.
yeah, I know you're familiar. Originally, there was a more violent cut. Well, again, violent in quotes, not violent at all. It's more like kind of like non. They put a little edgier version of like Jumbo was destroying the house, like only shooting at the roof, and you had like a bit where he has like a Swiss Army knife that actually had more like knives and stuff at the end of it. And the big thing, the house got destroyed not by the plasma of the gun, like this carrot being shoved in the gun. Basically, the hot potato gag. Which, by the way, I like that they went with that change because I love the hot potato gag. Like, hey, I forgot it's your birthday. Merry Christmas. It's not Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
See, that's hysterical. I love that. So I think they ultimately made the right choice. But I do like again playing with the realism that has been established in the film up to that point. Again, you could say the same thing with the whole 9/11 original version of that. Is that you have like the gas line leading to the house blowing up and the whole fire thing, and like it would make it look more like it was Nani's doing as well. So I mean, I see the logic there, but ultimately, I think going broader, it was a safer move, but also still rather funny and played really well. So
Uh-huh. Okay, we
anyway,
have a really good comment from OAW
yes,
Entertainment. He says, this film was shared by my big sister 1 year after my parents' divorce. Stitch's speech, I'm sorry, spoke volumes at that time. This is my family. It's little and broken, but still good. Yeah, still good.
see, that's something we really should talk about for a bit there, Tig, is the fact that I mean, you've been looking at it for the majority, and that's the fact that many people can take different things away from the
No,
speech.
but
Take
you're
away the
absolutely right. A lot of people, like, obviously, like, I don't have the experience of losing my parents, but I am sure that this movie resonates on a really, really core level with that demographic for sure.
yeah, but I mean, also again, you've spoken to the autism, kind of demographic. There's people who are kind of the orphan demographic, and then you also have the divorcee demographic, in which you have
Absolutely,
families
absolutely.
that are kind of like
Just
broken.
anyone who's come from any sort of broken family.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like a lot of interesting kind of like ways to kind of like again, the point is this film means a lot of things, a lot of many different things to a lot of many different people.
And it's really great. And I really feel like, again, that kind of goes back to the storybook thing that Chris Sanders wanted to set out with,
Exactly.
because it makes the film very malleable.
For sure, for sure. It's a kind of a touchstone in that
Uh-huh.
regard. Also, my favorite thing about the ending after the speech, I love the loophole. I love the loophole that basically kind of like allows Stitch to stay with the family. It's the fact that
The fact that she paid the $2.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love because that was already a
That
charming.
she had to borrow, quote unquote, from Nani anyways.
Technically, Nani owns Stitch, but let's not get some.
Right. Exactly.
Like the whole.
Exactly.
So like, can I borrow $2? And I love like her tapping the money. I love Nani's animation. It's like looking at it with her eyes and everything. Like, oh, yeah, sure. Just great. Anyway, so the whole Cobra Bubble's like, wait a minute, didn't you buy Stitch or you adopt Stitch? Like, oh yeah. And it pulls out the document and it checks out. It's illegal. That's the fact the Galactic Federation slaved the bureaucracy. It's great. And that's honestly the fact that the Grand Council was touched and just kind of found like, okay, there's a loophole we could use. Okay, he can be exiled to Earth. It works. That's funny.
Totally.
So I heard something really I completely forgot about this in the making of. This really elated my heart. And it makes me love Tom Schumacher even more than I already did. So Tiki, originally the film ended with Cobra, essentially them rebuilding the house, and then it would have just been the credits in which you had the photos of what they went on to do. So you didn't get any of the other stuff after that. So Tom Schumacher said, "Guys, this is great. What is there anything else you wanted to do?" He says, "Well, we really wanted to see the family being repaired, like what they were, after the broken family was repaired, what that would look like, and kind of spend a few minutes just kind of showing like one last montage of what that would look like." He says, "You know what, guys, you did such great work. Have at it. It's on us." And essentially, it's like, yeah, that's how we get like all the holidays, like basically the ultimate kind of like Christmas card photo, like Christmas and Halloween and Thanksgiving and the birthday, which clearly influenced us here a little bit.
Yeah, it's all great for sure.
That's delightful. And also Stitch reading to the little ducks. Yeah, it's adorable.
Which is kind of like the basis for my tattoo, honestly.
Which, by the way, I just want to mention this from a merchandising thing, because all the Lilo and Stitch merchandise they've released in years since, because obviously there's so many.
Dragon, there is, I don't know if you've seen it, but there is one plush of Lilo and Stitch drinking from.
I know, I was going to bring that up to you too. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, I want it so bad.
That's the thing. They put that out at the parks right now for the anniversary, I think.
I know.
So they had that I was going to bring up to you after the thing. I was going to bring up they have like Funkos.
I legitimately hate how much I want it.
I kind of want it too, but it's like I don't really have like a lot of Lilo and Stitch in my collection. I don't really need it. It's cool. I don't really need it though. It's awesome. Though. I would love it, but if it were near me, it might be an impulse buy. I'll put it to you. Regardless.
If it were near me, it would definitely be an impulse buy for sure.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, here's the other impulse buy that actually is tangible for me, but I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't, because I got to be selective about Funkos. That's a plush, but there is a Funko, and there's a few different versions of this Funko where you have like Stitch reading to little ducks, which is adorable. It's like literally it's that pose and everything. It just looks great, and it's just super tempting. Anyway,
ZK, yeah, that piece of merch is this new, yeah.
Yeah, they released it for the
20th. Yeah,
I think it's I don't know if it's just exclusively in the parks, but you can probably find it on eBay, probably for an arm and a leg though.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's exclusively Magic Kingdom, actually.
Huh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. OWA. I'm sorry. OAW Entertainment says that cover of Birdie Love is still my favorite.
Yeah, so what?
Elvis Presley.
Well, I know that she always wanted to do an animated movie, and this was like the agent was like really. Apparently, the agent, according to the commentary, was like really. The agent told them like, "Oh, I'm so elated because this is why it was like biggest dream ever, do a cover for an animated film," and she did that. The fact she does really good Elvis renditions got her the role.
ZK, it's a plush.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Dragon. I think we've pretty much run the gauntlet.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. That's that's it. Unless you want to like mention like deep, like kind of like little bits, like remember when Stitch threw up the cake and he put a little cherry on it and everything.
Well, Dragon, if we got into all that, we'd be here all day. There's a lot.
That's what I'm saying. So I think we're good. I think we covered all the.
And Dragon, honestly, I feel like what you landed on a little while ago about how it's like it's not just the autism thing. It's not just the people who have lost parents. I feel like there's a very universal appeal and almost like children's book appeal to this. Yeah. Like I really feel like Chris Sanders and I'm sorry, say the name.
Dean DeBlois.
Dean DeBlues. I was good. I had like him and Dom.
See, for years I've been saying Dean Dubois because I like the sound of it.
I know.
But there's Dean DeBlois apparently, and he said it himself, so that's how. Yeah. So. We now have a ruling on it.
All right. Dragon, Lucas Green is asking about David's reaction to the surfing incident. I really thought they had a chance till you came along. I think David's just frustrated in the moment.
I mean, yeah, but David's not wrong though. That Stitch at every opportunity he was responsible for things
Yeah.
going belly up. And I think there's like some actual again, it's the point being it's a bittersweet lesson, but again, it's the fact that again Stitch again Stitch it's kind of you can look at it from a sympathetic point of view here where Stitch is like he's trying legitimately to curb his destructive tendencies. And that kind of leads to the tragedy of what Jumba tells him. And that one of the other great scenes that Jumba has in the movie where the whole like, don't don't run away. Don't make me shoot you. You are expensive. And he basically kind of
Oh
clips his
man.
wing
Oh,
here.
that scene gets
Where
me. That scene fucking gets
think
me.
about
Yeah.
it, Tiki.
Yeah.
Stitch is saying, like, basically, Stitch is asking if he has a family, and I love how seriously, David Ogdenstiers is killing it in this. I'm going to mention this too, by the way. Easily hands down my favorite David Ogdenstiers performance is Jumba in this movie. I love what he did with this role. That's just me though. A lot of great contenders, mind you, with all the other performances. Point being, he's basically laying it out like you don't have a family. You're
Uh-huh.
programmed to destroy. And basically, you can't have a family or something. Which basically that's the kind of like the gut punch there of like, oh man, he is the fact that again it's like saying it's like almost like a challenge the Stitch of like no you're never your destructive tendencies prevent you your genetic disposition prevents you from ever having a family, and that's the challenge which obviously the end of the movie disproves. Like no, he can have a family, he can curb his destructive tendencies, which is kind of what has been kind of stymieing Nani at every turn during the day two montage of like losing all the jobs and everything. That's what's kind of leading David to drop some harsh truth on him, which is actually giving Stitch pause and contemplation that David was right. I am. Maybe I should leave. That's why he runs away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry. Like I was saying, I think Dragon, the ultimate thing that I want people to take away from is I clearly see this film from the lens of autism, and I think a lot of other people do too. But it's certainly not the only way to look at this film, and I really don't want to get the impression that I interpret this film as just like a one-on-one metaphor for autism or anything. I just think that it's incredible that they've crafted a film that just has such a universal, powerful appeal to it. Anything else that you want to speak on, Dragon? As your final thoughts?
I mean, I suppose one. I'm going to note that OW Entertainment. Let's not forget Stitch is very persuasive. He's highly
Very
persuasive.
persuasive.
He is what? He's very persuasive. Anyway, sorry, it's a great line. Final thoughts for me. I mean, just keep it simple. Is that the movie is just ultimately like a true anomaly of a Disney film that I think in many ways, in many respects, kind of helped change the industry, even in little ways. Like think about it, Dean DeBlois. He goes on to do How to Train Your Dragon after this, which clearly has
Okay,
kind of a
yeah,
more of a
sure,
visual
sure.
influence with Chris Sanders, but then he really runs with that premise. So again, it's kind of like I think it did raise the bar in what you could do in the storytelling. And again, like I can't underestimate in a movie in which it's an alien with like essentially six arms, four arms and the two legs. The alien with multiple arms who is who's riding around like a little red spaceship and crashing in Hawaii and everything and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, destroying like little mock-ups of San Francisco, which is hilarious, by the way. By the way, all the A113s, I love how much A113s in this movie because there's so many license plates with A113. Sorry, my point is drifting away from it there. I think in so many little ways, it's kind of raised what we can do with the storytelling, how we can be like very realistic and very grounded, and like address things and subvert things that we've seen done. Like this is how Disney stays fresh. This is how Disney can like raise the game in the 2000s, where it's like this is like when you really justify like it's Disney in the 2000s. You had like 90s Disney. There's the sweet spot. 2000s Disney at its best is like, here's us entering the millennium. This is where we can kind of take us getting better and better, and then we can really kind of like, okay, folks, we're going to go a little modern, but we're not going to lose you. We're going to keep true to like the fundamental core values of like the warm and fuzzy pixie dust feeling a Disney film should give you, but we're going to give it a whole new wrapper you never saw coming. It's going to be this reformulation is delicious. I love it. I don't know. It's just it's a special film. It's a simple film. It's a film about relatable things, no matter what you relate to, and it's just ultimately it's a film you can watch, just have a really good time with. Pizza box or no pizza box. Like I've inserted in there. in a weird scene because again we're kind of shying away from the realism in that bit years later for some reason. I don't know. It's a movie about flawed people because we ourselves are flawed people and like seeing ourselves represented in ways that make us feel all warm and fuzzy, blue, and fluffy. One could say.
All right, well said, Dragon. Thank you, thank you. All right, so big thanks to OAW Entertainment, Lucas Green, Pink Pearl, and Z and K. You guys all rock. Very, very appreciative of each and every one of you. Let's see. Lucas Green says, truly touching podcast for its 20th anniversary. Lucas Green, thank you so much. That means a lot. Let's see. How to Train Your Dragon, masterpiece. OAW says DreamWorks reviews next. Yes, please. OAW, I can't confirm anything just yet. It's not really on the pipeline for the next couple of months, but I don't know, Dragon. We haven't really done. Here's the thing: we've done anniversaries, so it's like we've done Prince of Egypt, we've done El Dorado.
Well, we did a whole Shrek theme. I think we've kind of covered all the DreamWorks stuff we kind of want.
Yeah, so it's all on the channel OAW. Like
We
you know,
did.
if you look hard enough. So
Let's see,
we definitely have a lot of DreamWorks stuff already on the channel.
Yeah, I mean, like there's we did Shrek, we did How to Train Your Dragon, we did
I don't think
Megamind.
we actually ever did one for the original How to Train Your
Well,
Dragon.
yeah, that might be the one blind spot in that case. I mean, there's maybe, but anyways, let's see. There's that. There's yeah, no,
Megamind.
Yeah, Megamind, absolutely. Rise of the Guardians, we did that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of DreamWorks there. Anyways.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, thank you guys so much, and big thanks to Lilo and Stitch for just kind of like shaping my identity in a lot of ways, and just kind of being a guiding light in my life in a lot of ways. 20 years just went by like that, Dragon. 20 years from the summer of Six Flags that I look back on so fondly. And here's to the movie, and here's to many more years to come of this movie just pervading, just going and kind of influencing people. And God, I'm sorry.
I think the simplest way to put it, Tiki, is what we would say to the wonderful people who made Lilo and Stitch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dragon. All right, have a good night, everyone. Educate yourself.
Share.
My friends needed to be punished.
Share.